And now the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency has published a document that confirms Washington's role in the 1953 coup against the democratically elected Iranian Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. The open acknowledgement comes some 6 decades after the British and American-backed military overthrow. The document, published on the National Security Archive website, was initially released in 1981, but most of it was blacked out at the time, including an entire section on the coup. On August 15, 1953, the British and US intelligence agencies initiated a coup by the Iranian military. The coup set off riots that led to the overthrow and arrest of Mossadegh. The Iranian Prime Minister played a key role in nationalizing the country's oil industry, then controlled by British Petroleum. Dr. Randy Short with the Black Autonomy Network Community Organization is with us now on the line from Washington. Dr. Short, first of all, tell us what this revelation, this acknowledgement means in terms of the US position on Iran and in terms of relations between the US and Iran.
Well, hopefully it means it's good, it's a token step. But I need to remind people, just as sure as they're acknowledging what they did in 1953, here 60 years later or thereabout, they're still supporting MKO, the Mujahideen al-Haq organization, as well as Jundallah, which are terrorist organizations that do many things similar to CIA covert activities globally. But there's always room for hope, and God at least.
We were speaking with the political commentators about this here in Iran, Dr. Short, and they were telling us that this kind of warfare initiated by the US against Iran, which we can say, at least in the modern times, started with that coup, has now developed into various attacks, including cyber warfare, economic sanctions, etc. So do you think that the United States is not willing to, put aside this kind of animosity toward Iran that it has because it's not interested in developing relations with Iran?
Well, I believe that they want relations with Iran, but with a government like the former Shah, Pahlavi. They do not want an independent, self-determining government that doesn't want to be a colony. It's the same way they had the coup in Egypt. They have animosity towards governments that do not want to be essentially slaves to their socio-political economic interests. So I think they want relations, but they'd like to have it with an MKO-type government versus what you have.
And before we leave you, there is a question on the public knowledge in the United States concerning this coup that's now been acknowledged by the CIA and the US government. A lot of people, when it comes to the US and Iran relations, think of the hostage crisis and how that created a crisis in the ties. But how much public knowledge is there in the US about the attempts that the US has made against Iran, including this coup, which has led to a lot of mistrust among Iranians towards the United States?
Well, we need to remember that the hostage crisis was a very rational response by progressive Iranian students who didn't want the United States to try to have a coup against Ayatollah Khomeini and the Iranian Revolution. This is one thing that Americans do not know, that the Iranians had studied the revolution, or should I say the coup against Mossadegh in 1953, and didn't want to repeat in 1979. So this is something that is not understood. I do not think that the American public is educated about Iran, and that is deliberately so because Iran stands up to Zionism. For example, Ayatollah Khomeini started Al-Quds Day and so forth. So I believe the Iranian society and the people have been so demonized by the media here until people know very little, or they only know what's been fed to them, which is poison, to not really understand the people there. Let us hope that that changes. But it's ironic that you've had an entire Iranian airliner shot out of the sky by the Vincennes, one of America's ships. And most Americans don't know about that, but they know about the hostages. All of them were returned home alive, and yet the Iranians, who are the victims all the time of sanctions, terrorism, wars, some 950,000 died due to a proxy war that Saddam Hussein waged against Iran for the United States. Americans don't know that. Americans don't even know about African Americans, people like me in their own country, because we're very parochial. The education here continues to decline, and in fact, many places education is in recession. They're running away, they're closing schools. So I don't think that they really know, and that is how the American people are ruled, through their ignorance of geopolitical and historical events. And so they do not understand. And this is a game to control them that they not know, that they not understand, that they not see, that perhaps people in the world who are protesting or upset, it's because they want freedom. They don't hate Americans because we're free. They dislike America for impeding their right to choose their own path to freedom.
Dr. Randy Short with the Black Autonomy Network Community Organization with us there on the line from Washington. Thank you very much.